Now, it's time to meet the players of college sports today, presented by the Allen Law Firm, and get this show started. He's a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, a first-round NFL draft choice, and a member of the College Football Hall of Fame as both a player and coach. He is the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier. He's a rare two-time SEC Player of the Year and spent over a decade in the NFL. Ladies and gentlemen, Shane Matthews. And presenting the host of the show, with over 25 years of sports broadcasting experience, Terry Norvell. Coming to you from the Future Home Loan Studio inside Spurrier's Gridiron Grille, it's time for College Sports Today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell. Presented by the Allen Law Firm.
And we are now down to two teams playing for the College Football National Championship as we welcome you to a Monday edition College Sports Today inside Spurrier's Gridiron Grill inside the Future Home Loans Studio. And we want to thank our title sponsor, the Allen Law Firm. I'll tell you all about them as we go here on a Monday. Coach Steve Spurrier is with us. Coach, I want to review the two semifinal games and talk about bowl season. It heated up pretty good. Alabama, Georgia meet for the second time a week from tonight, Coach. They really stake claim. They're the two best teams in the country, right?
There's no question they're the two best teams. Sort of interesting. People are saying those bowl games don't mean anything, this, that, and the other. Well, some of these bowl games were a lot more exciting to watch than the college football playoffs. Alabama dominated and Georgia dominated.
Yeah.
So they're clearly the two best teams in the country. And if Georgia can, I sort of think Georgia's a little bit better than Alabama. Alabama had some close games all year. Georgia hadn't had a close one.
No, really haven't.
They just had one lousy game. But if Georgia can sort of keep it together and not give up big passes, I certainly think they got a chance to beat Alabama.
Yeah, going to be a heck of a game in Indianapolis. It'll be in Indianapolis. It's kind of weird that the two SEC schools.
Well, one good thing about playing indoors, it's indoors, so it doesn't favor anybody. I felt so sorry for those Michigan guys down in to Miami at the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
They were pooped when that second quarter started. Yeah. It was not only 82 degrees, but the humidity, they said, was way up there. And it clearly, those teams from up north, clearly at a disadvantage.
Yeah. And that obviously we're in North Florida, but this little cold front has just came through. But the prior week it was warm, and obviously down in South Florida. But Michigan kind of got a bad break on that. If that front could have come through, might have cooled it down a little bit more. But the two games, Coach, we'll spend a few minutes, take a break, and come back and look around at all the stuff that happened in bowl season. I was so impressed by Alabama's game plan. And let me explain, for people that don't know the Cincinnati team real well, Cincinnati's two best players are their two cornerbacks. They're NFL cornerbacks. They're both going to get drafted in the first or second round, no later than that. I loved what Alabama, not that Alabama didn't think they had good players that could go against them, but Alabama's game plan, Coach, was if we don't have to wrestle with those two NFL-type cornerbacks, why mess with them? Even though Alabama has a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and a deep threat in Williams, they said, let's just run the ball. If we don't have to mess with those guys, and they ran it for over 300 yards, Coach. I loved Alabama's approach.
Yeah, you come to the ballpark, and you sort of say, well, if the run game's going and they can't stop it, then you keep doing it.
Yeah.
Remind me a little bit of our 97 Citrus Bowl game, Capital One Bowl game against Penn State.
Right.
And Fred Taylor ran 41, 43 times, something like that, for close to a couple hundred yards, I think. And Penn State's run defense they'd given up a bunch of yards all year. So we sort of felt like that was our best way. And, of course, our defense held them to 6 points. So that was the way we needed to win the game, was run it. And Alabama certainly thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know when they came into the ballpark, is this what we want to do, or do we want to mix it up? But Bryce Young did not have his greatest day ever.
No.
So run the ball was how they won the game easily.
I just to see Alabama's game plan and to pull that off as a coaching staff, Alabama, Coach Saban and his staff, just to call that game plan with a Heisman Trophy quarterback and a deep threat in Williams. I think he's the best deep threat. He should have won the Blitnikoff. Alabama, I think they had to check their testosterone at the door. I think it would have been so easy to say, no, we got the Heisman guy and we got receivers. Coach, they took the two best players that Cincinnati had out of the game. They were no factor because they only threw it 35 times. They ran for 300 yards. I really love their approach. The other game, Coach, I think we talked a few minutes before we went on the air, Georgia, Michigan. You mentioned you thought Michigan got gassed. I was also surprised. We talked pre-show. I didn't think Michigan would get bullied so bad. Georgia bullied them. They just physically punched Michigan in the nose, and Michigan had no fight back. That surprised me that they physically beat Michigan that bad.
Yeah, I thought Michigan would give them a lot better game. But, you know what's interesting also, I remember Hayden Hutchinson up at the Heisman. Heck, he was a runner-up for the Heisman
sure he was.
To Bryce Love Young. And he said our goals all year were to beat Ohio State and win the Big Ten. So they accomplished that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what, I don't know if you saw the celebration at Michigan after they did that.
Yeah.
I think they were on that field an hour or two.
They were
the
a
team,
long time.
the fans, I mean, they were hugging and they were going crazy because they beat Ohio State for the first time in, 7, 8 years?
Yeah, 7, 8 years,
and so they may have celebrated that, man, we have hit our goals this year. And then all of a sudden they had to sort of say, "Ooh, let's try to set a goal of winning the national championship."
Yeah.
Because I don't know if that had a lot to do with it, but it could have had a little bit.
Yeah, but boy, I was surprised just physically. I thought Michigan and Georgia were a lot alike. No, Georgia was much more physical, and you said the weather. Michigan looked gassed a little bit. Hutchinson, and he's also going up against probably an NFL tackle, a future NFL tackle. But impressive physical display. Georgia getting by Michigan. Before we take our first break, though, so obviously, Coach. We'll talk about it today, and a week from today will be the game. We'll break it down again, but the rematch, Alabama and Georgia. I was looking at the box score. It was a weird game. Neither team ran very well at all. Brian Robinson, the running back for Alabama, who went for over 200 yards against Cincinnati, he was banged up. He had 16 carries, but he wasn't Brian Robinson. Neither team, Georgia or Alabama, they barely cracked 100 yards. Bennett threw for 340, and, of course, Young threw for 450. I didn't realize this, though, Coach. And the game was only 4 weeks ago. Georgia jumped up 10-0. Georgia was up 10-0 in that game, and then the 24-point second quarter for Alabama.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was going Georgia's way there.
10-0.
And then all of a sudden it changed, and then everything went Alabama's way. One of the big plays, remember, Bryce ran with it and fumbled.
Yep.
And the Georgia guy was picking it up, and one hand he scooped it back in and recovered it. And just little things like that went Alabama's way the entire night in the SEC game. So we'll see how it goes in the national championship game.
And, people want to complain, oh, God, Alabama again. But you made a really good point, too. Alabama had 5 losable games. They went 4-1 in those 5 games. And keep in mind, when they lost to Texas A&M, Coach, that was early October. So Alabama's been playing they could not lose another game. They had to go 2 months. They had to fight off LSU. They had to fight off Arkansas. They had to fight off Auburn, right? They fought off Florida.
The Gators?
They fought off Florida before the loss.
We had a chance to tie it up.
Yeah. So Alabama, in the 4 other games where they were pushed, those were elimination games. They could not lose another one. So before people complain about Alabama, you know what? Some of those other teams need to finish the job. I mean, Alabama spit the hook out 4 times. Obviously, A&M got them, but should be a hell of a game. You see where it looks like Georgia's the favorite.
Yeah, they're going to be favored again, probably 2.5 or something like that, I heard. But again, it could be a completely different game. You mentioned earlier we got that rematch with FSU 25 years ago, and it was a completely different game. It was a neutral site, but both of our offensive tackles were out the first game we played FSU. And now a lot of other things happened also that gave us a little advantage in the second game. Our defense was much better prepared, I think, and so forth. We shut them out the second half. But having our 2 starting offensive tackles really helped our offense that game.
Yeah, definitely. And we talked, Coach, I think you're going to get called a lot by the national media this week because, obviously Georgia-Alabama rematch. Florida State, Florida rematch, both games for the national championship. So you also made a good point there. There wasn't any semifinal games, though. You kind of went,
Yeah, but we've had rematches in SEC games.
Sure,
we beat Auburn here in the Swamp, I think 38-7 or something like that. And then we had them in the SEC game, and we really played well and beat them 28-6. So it sometimes the same team wins it, and sometimes they don't. So simple as that.
Yeah, so there you have it. The national championship game is set. Georgia, Alabama, the two best teams in the country this year. I don't think anybody now is going to argue. There were some other pretty good teams, and we'll talk about their other bowl games when we come back. But the two best teams in the country will kick it off a week from tonight in Indianapolis for all the marbles, Alabama and Georgia. Break time, we'll come back and recap what turned out to be a pretty fun bowl season. It started off a little slow, particularly for the SEC, but man, what a fun final week. And there were some good games to look back on. We'll do that with the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier, on the other side. It is College Sports Today, presented by the Allen Law Firm.
Playing football for 15 years taught me many important things we still use every day fighting for our clients. Things like hard work, toughness, persistence, tenacity. Football taught me when you really want something, you got to be relentless and fight for it every day, not just sometimes. Winning consistently isn't easy. You got to be willing to put in the work and do hard things. I've never taken the easy road, and that's made all the difference in my life. Let me show you what having football tough lawyers can do for you.
All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again.
Taste the islands and every drop of Vida de Luis tequila. 100% blue agave from Tequila, Mexico. Good vibes.
All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again.
It's time to thank the sponsors that make College Sports Today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell possible. Vida de Luis Tequila, the official tequila of College Sports Today. Make sure you ask for Vida de Luis Tequila by name in your favorite bars and restaurants throughout the state of Florida. And of course, with your next margarita inside Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Safe Harbor Seafood Mayport, Safe Harbor Seafood Crescent Beach, and Sliders Oyster Bar Neptune Beach. The official seafood restaurants of College Sports Today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell can be found up and down the northeast Florida coast. Safe Harbor Seafood Mayport, Safe Harbor Seafood Crescent Beach, and Sliders Oyster Bar Neptune Beach. The proud seafood sponsors of College Sports Today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell. J.B. Coxwell Contracting, established in 1983 and offering complete site development. Go with the company generally considered the most well-respected heavy civil construction firm in Northeast Florida. Go with J.B. Coxwell Construction. For advertising information to get your business on College Sports Today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell, simply shoot me an email, tnsportsjacks@yahoo.com. Again, shoot me, Terry Norvell, an email, and I'll get back with you. That email address again, tnsportsjacks@yahoo.com. Back here on a Monday, College Sports Today. The head ball coach, of course, is here, Steve Spurrier. We're in his Gridiron Grill, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, inside the podcast room. Coach has got his own podcast room here. And, of course, we want to thank our good friends, the Allen Law Firm, our title sponsor, and Future Home Loans. If you're looking to finance a home, refinance a home, you can't go with anybody better than Future Home Loans. Boy, they have expanded all over the Southeast. Refi or a initial home mortgage, go with the best. Go with Future Home Loans. Hey, we're closing in on the 35th Florida Manatee Festival in beautiful Crystal River. That comes up January 15th and 16th, of course, Saturday and Sunday. Make plans now. It's only a little over a week away. It is a lot of fun, the 35th annual. Check out everything that's going on. They have been doing this a long time, and they've got something for everybody. Go to their website, gomanateefest.com, for all the details. Gomanateefest.com. Saturday, Sunday, beer gardens and manatee tours and kids zones and just great food, great entertainment. It is a lot of fun. 35 years and going strong. The Florida Manatee Fest in Citrus County, obviously in downtown Crystal River. That comes up on the 15th and 16th. Gosh, Coach, can you believe we've turned the calendar 2022?
Yeah, it's already 2022. I want to give a shout out to Baylor University. Ooh. Now, Baylor, we don't think of them as a powerhouse in a whole bunch of sports, but this year in football, they won the Big 12 and won the Sugar Bowl. I don't know if they've ever won either one of those.
How about that?
They're definitely going to finish in the top 10, maybe even top 5, because they finished 12-2. That might be their best record ever in football. Basketball, we know they won national championship
title.
this past year.
Yes, sir.
And they're currently number 1 right now. All right, men's tennis. The Gators, we beat them in Orlando.
I didn't remember that.
And they had us sort of on the ropes there.
Yeah.
And so they finished runner-up in men's tennis. Women's basketball, they were in the Final Four last year.
Yeah.
Kim Mulkey went to LSU.
Yeah.
But they were right there in the Final Four, lost, I think, a 1-point game to Stanford, something like that. So they have really been good in a bunch of sports.
How about that?
Baylor University. On the other side, one of the guys said today that Notre Dame is 0-8 in the last 8 years after the regular season's over, either the bowl game or the college football playoff game. So they have not done well in postseason play at all. But Baylor has really done well.
I'll tell you, Baylor, let me tell you something. Dave Aranda, year 2 now, he did a great job. Their defense is as good as anybody in the country. They're really tough on defense. Baylor was playing really good football at the end of the year. Really good football. And Aranda.
Well, Oklahoma State, had a chance to beat them.
Yeah.
Got stopped on the 1-inch line or 1-foot line.
And think about that.
Okie State had a good year.
Really? Coach, if that running back squares up in that Big 12 championship game against Baylor, if he squares up, he probably gets in the end zone. Cincinnati doesn't go. Oklahoma State would have gone.
That's right.
Oklahoma State would have gone. I'm glad you brought that up, Coach. We want to get to some of the bowl games here while we got Coach Spurrier this second segment. But real quick, tell the story you just told me during the break. You visited with Coach Saban at the Heisman ceremony this past year. Alabama fighting for another national championship. I totally agree with what you told me during the break about Saban and what he's done with Alabama this year.
Well, Dan Wolken of USA Today had the article in the paper today, which sort of made me think about it. But when I saw Nick Saban at the Heisman, Bryce Young, of course, won the award, I said, this might be your best coaching job ever, because he had so many close games. And they had the one loss, couldn't afford another loss, and somehow or another they won them, and they didn't play all that pretty. And normally some of us coaches, even though you win, you're sort of a little critical of your guys and your coaches. We can do better than this. But he stayed positive. He really stayed positive the whole year. And Dan Wolken talked about that in his article today, USA Today, about how Saban was more understanding, encouraging to his team. So it could be. I agree with Dan Wolken. I think this was his best year coaching.
Totally agree. And some of my buddies, Brent Beard, who you hear on a bunch of our shows, Shane's show and this show, I've known Brent 1,000 years. He's been a college football analyst for years. He's out of Jacksonville, but his roots are Alabama. And he said from day one, he said, "Hey, this is Saban's best coaching. He has nurtured his offensive line. He's had to find guys and fit guys. And yes, he had a great quarterback." And yes, he's got some great players, but he's had to piece this thing together. And defensively, they've grown as the season went along. Defensively as well.
Well, it's always interesting. The highly ranked teams like Ohio State and Alabama, they've had injuries also.
Sure.
And Ohio State had about 4 dudes opt out.
Absolutely.
So it gave Marvin Harrison Jr. and the other guy, and the other guy just set all kind of records in the Rose Bowl, 350 yards. So it gives the backup players a chance to come in and say, hey, I can play too.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of having so many talented players on your team that an injury doesn't really deter your team much at all.
No, not at all. Coach, let's bounce around some of the bowl games, some of the interesting things that happened in the other bowl games. Obviously, Georgia and Alabama took care of the big games to move on. But we talked a little bit about Notre Dame and Oklahoma State a moment ago. What about the 30-point onslaught? Oklahoma State went on a 30-0 scoring run on Notre Dame. That was so impressive by Oklahoma State's offense. And Notre Dame's defense, you talk about gassed. I mean, Oklahoma State got clicking those plays off. 30 unanswered, Coach, to come back and win that game for the Cowboys.
Yeah, their coach, Gundy, said it was the biggest win in school history. And they may be ranked the highest they've ever been with this win. So it was a good one for them. And obviously they got to beat Oklahoma. And they did this past year. If they can make it 2 in a row, that might be the first time in, 30 years or so. Who knows?
Yeah, they were so close to going to the college football playoff, Oklahoma State. Again, that running back tried to outrun that one DB to the pylon. If he squared up, he probably tumbles into the end zone, and they go. What a nice year for Oklahoma State. Notre Dame, strange year. Their schedule really hurt them. Nobody was really that good other than Cincinnati in the regular season. They only played 2 really good teams, and they lost to both of them, it looked like. Cincinnati beat them, and then Oklahoma State. But Notre Dame, you hit it too, Coach. I heard one of those crazy stats. They haven't won a New Year's 6 bowl game since like 94 or something crazy like that. Notre Dame. But what an impressive offensive performance. Tennessee, Purdue might have been the most fun game of the bowl season. Tennessee, what did they call the running back was down? Momentum stopped. Coach, tough call at the end of the game for Tennessee, and they lose to Purdue.
Yeah, it was. Sometimes the referees make a call you don't understand, and sometimes they replay it, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
So it was a tough loss for Tennessee, but a big win, I guess, for Purdue.
Yeah, what a fun game, though. My goodness, that fourth quarter, what'd you have? You had 5 touchdowns in a 3-minute span at one point. They're scoring touchdowns left and right. And I guess the official finally, it wasn't that the Tennessee running back, he didn't touch the ground. They said his momentum was stopped, and they blew the whistle is why. But, boy, Tennessee, that was a tough one. Good comeback for the SEC as a whole. What did the SEC open up, Coach? They opened up like
0-4.
Yeah, and a good comeback. Yeah. Kentucky, South Carolina, Arkansas, among other teams that had nice wins.
Yeah, South Carolina beating North Carolina started it, and I think preseason, wasn't North Carolina 9 or 10 in the country?
They were ranked in the top 10, Coach.
I thought they were right in there.
They were ranked in the top 10.
I think South Carolina may have been ranked about number 99.
I agree.
They weren't supposed to do much of anything. Yeah. But Shane Beamer and his 2 coordinators, they had a really good plan. They only threw about 10, 12 passes to beat North Carolina. They had their running quarterback, Joyner, in there, and he ran for a bunch of yards. And, of course, their tailback, Harris, ran for 160.
When healthy,
70.
he's tough.
Yeah.
When he's healthy, he's tough. You could tell Coach Beamer and his staff, they made it fun for his team. You know what I mean? You could tell their 2 or 3 weeks of practice.
Oh yeah,
they had
to be there.
They had it fun. That was a fun atmosphere around that South Carolina team, and they called fun plays. You know, they had a little reverse here and a little double pass here. They looked like they were having fun. And North Carolina, coming off that terrible end of the season loss to NC State, they gave that game away. North Carolina just didn't want to be there, did they? They didn't want to be there. It didn't look like.
Well, it didn't look like it. They certainly didn't tackle very well. The defenses sometimes we see in college football now, or coach put somebody else in there who wants to tackle, and so forth.
Yeah, it was a bad showing by North Carolina. It really was. But, boy, a real fun freshness around that South Carolina program. Rose Bowl turned out to be a lot of fun. Boy, Ohio State is loaded. Ohio State will be either 1 or 2. Obviously, Alabama will probably be preseason 1 because they'll bring back the Heisman Trophy winner. That Ohio State team has a lot of talent, and a lot of it comes back. And Utah, I knew they were going to play hard. Utah played their tail off in that game.
Yeah, Utah, of course, they scored 35 in the first half.
Yeah.
And it scored late in the game to tie it. You almost want to say, let's try an onside kick, man, because we can't stop them. And they had plenty of time to go down and score. It sort of surprised me he kicked the field goal.
Yes.
Because I think he could run it in a lot easier to have won the game, but his field goal guy made it, so it was no harm, no foul, I guess.
I felt bad a little bit, not that Utah's the only team to have injuries and opt-outs, but the way it played out, Utah's secondary, they had a couple opt-outs and a couple injuries. I felt bad. The running back number 2 for Utah, who made the great touchdown catch, got a foot down in the first half, he played DB the entire second half. He was the defensive back on one side, the cornerback. He's their starting running back. They had nobody else. And he's out there trying to guard future NFL players, and it was just pitch and catch. But Ohio State has got some ball players, man.
I tell you, that C.J. Stroud, he's a beautiful
Nice
passer
player.
now. He and Bryce Love and
Yeah.
those guys all from California.
Yeah.
They go to Alabama, go to Ohio State. Seems like California kids are a lot of them are the best passers in the country right now. But anyway, they really came back. Ohio State did, with a bunch of guys that they had more opt-outs, I think, than about any of the big schools.
Yes.
But the guys behind them, they played just as well.
Good ball players are coming back. Ohio State will be 1 or 2 in the nation. They are loaded. And, man, that Utah team, they bring back, I heard 15 players will come back, starters, it looks like. They open up in Gainesville.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
They open up in Gainesville. I've already made this prediction. I'll stay with it. You saw how excited that fan base. They had a ton of fans at the Rose Bowl.
Sure did.
I'm going to call it right now. Utah in the season opener, September 3rd in the Swamp, will bring more visiting fans. That'll be the biggest visiting fan crowd ever in the history of that. I'm telling you, Utah, everybody will come to make that trip. It's summertime. It's the first game of the year. That's going to be a good football team that rolls in here. Coach Napier's got his hands full with that team.
Well, the visitors usually only get 10,000.
They're going to find. Hey, they're going to find. Hey, Georgia got way more at Notre Dame, and by the way, they found a way to get those Rose Bowl tickets. They'll find a way. They will be packed in that stadium, I'm telling you.
I think this was Utah's first ever trip to the Rose Bowl.
It was their first ever and their first Pac-12 championship.
Yeah, first ever. So obviously that was big for them.
That coach is really good out there.
They may bring a bunch. I don't know, but I think the Gators will be packing it in also. Billy Napier and his guys, they are hustling around, hiring people from all over and trying to put the best organization staff together we possibly can.
You know what's ironic? Florida, Utah, season opener, September 3rd. That's not one of those made-for-TV first games. That was just a scheduled home and home. Florida goes out there, I think, the following year or a little bit later. That wasn't one of those, put together for TV, preseason or early season. That's just a regular scheduled game. And that's going to be a hell of an opener. A really, really fun opener. Coach, what a shame that the Sugar Bowl really, Coach, I ended up going to bed early second half because once Corral was injured, as good a defense as Baylor plays, without Corral, that backup quarterback stood no chance. What a shame he got hurt. I wanted to see him run that fun offense one more time.
Yeah, it was a difficult injury. I still don't know what it is. They said the test
negative.
was negative, whatever that means.
Sprained ankle, I heard now. Just a severe sprained ankle is what I heard.
Sprained ankle? Okay.
Yeah, nothing broken or anything. Nothing, like you said, the x-rays and MRI. But, yeah, what a shame we didn't get to see Corral run that Ole Miss offense one more time. And that was kind of the storyline, that Dave Aranda defense against that fun Ole Miss offense. But, yeah, that game was just kind of a 21-7. Baylor just didn't want to screw it up once Corral went out. That was a shame.
Yeah, Baylor scored on that pick six.
Yeah.
Got that deflection. Yeah. So defense is still out there occasionally.
Yeah, occasionally.
We see some defense,
Coach, Clemson got a bowl win. They ended up, this tells you when your program's really good. What Clemson, they scrapped together 10 wins, I think, 9 or 10 wins.
10-win season.
10-win season, and they're disappointed. Coach, what do you make of DJ Uyunglele, the quarterback at Clemson? Came in, I think he's a California guy as well. He came in with all the hype and waited his turn. He got the job. Coach, either I've watched the wrong games or I just haven't been real impressed with him. Something's missing with him.
I told Dabo, I saw him out at the College Hall of Fame in Vegas this year. I said, "Who's your quarterback coach?" I said, "Your man DJ." He goes back and he just eyeballs the guy and then fires it as hard as he can at him. It seems like that's what he does. Yeah. And get him in some rhythm back there, get his feet working a little bit, and look this way and throw that way. But he's a talent now, and they've got good players. So hopefully the new quarterback coach, whoever it is, can get him sort of confident and goosey a little bit more.
And I think they've got another 5-star quarterback coming in, so he may get pushed for that job. I mean, I don't think he played well enough to say that's his job. I think he may get pushed for that job. But Clemson. Go ahead, Coach. You were going to say?
I want to mention NFL a minute. Of course, we all know John Madden passed away this past week, and all the NFL games honored him, and all the former players, broadcasters said wonderful things about him. But I think his win percentage is the best of any coach in the history of the NFL.
It's way up there.
He won right at 80%.
Yeah.
And won 10 games, I think, every year of his 10 seasons. And that really is amazing. And then Belichick had another 10-win season. He's done it 20 times.
That's crazy in that league.
And he tied Don Shula. So there's, Don Shula is one of the best coaches of all time also. And John Madden was one of the best of all time. Sometimes they just want to line up how many Super Bowls you won or how many national championships, when really those total wins, and in college, to me, the conference wins and so forth. And that's why you got to say Bobby Bowden certainly is one of the greatest of all time, even though he only had 2 national championships in all those years. And a lot of times it wasn't set up for FSU to win national championships because they played us the last game. It wasn't set up very well for us, so we had to play them last game. So we'd knock each other out of the final game a lot. But anyway, I like those coaches when you look at their win percentages and how often they always won 10 or so games.
How do you win 10 that many seasons in the NFL? And you talked before we went on the air here, Madden, about 10 years, high winning percentage, won Super Bowl because, remember, his career was right there where the Dolphins were wrapping up their incredible run and the Steelers were becoming the crazy 70 Steelers. And Madden was right in there and lost so many heartbreaking games to those great Steeler teams.
The AFC Championship game, the game before the Super Bowl, he lost 5 of them. He lost 5 of them. Of course, remember the deflection that the fullback, Franco Harris, scooped off the turf or off the ground. Nobody ever knows. And he lost 5 games, just one play here or there. But, man, he always had good teams out there that were ready to play.
John Madden, boy, he
now, Belichick didn't take it easy on our Jags yesterday, did he?
Put a 50 burger on him, Coach.
Put 50. And Mac Jones was over there smiling the whole fourth quarter. But anyway, they're getting ready for the playoffs as usual up there.
Mac Jones is a guy that you would like a lot. You may know his story. Let me give you a story real quick. He's a Jacksonville kid, so he goes to bowls. Several years ago. Good, solid quarterback. Okay, I went out and saw him play a couple games when they play range or somebody a big game. We'd go out, me and some buddies. He was a good, solid quarterback. But Mac Jones, he wasn't a 5-star guy. He wasn't a 4. He's about 2 or 3-star guy. He committed for the longest time to Kentucky. Nothing wrong with Kentucky. It's in the SEC, but he wasn't high echelon. And I think maybe somebody at Alabama reneged on a commitment. Alabama needed another quarterback. And they offered him very late, and he was supposed to just be a fill up the quarterback room guy. Got his chance, and look at him now. You like those kind of guys.
His 4th year. That's the only year you got to play, wasn't it?
You like those kind of guys, don't you?
Behind Tua and all those guys, he waited his turn, and now look where he is. They did a special on Corky Rogers the other day. I happened to be watching TV.
Oh, did you?
Of course, they interviewed Matt Jones and several players that played for Corky. And, of course, Corky was one of the great high school coaches of all time in the state of Florida. He many championships, but just a wonderful mentor, a great guy. I loved going in the Bowles office when I was coaching.
A lot of fun.
Sit down, talk with him a while and so forth. But he had 2 things that Mac Jones said. He always repeated us. He said, fellas, there's 2 things in life that you can control. And if you control those 2 things, you'll be successful no matter what you do. And the first one is your attitude. You got to have good attitude in life. You're not going to do anything. And then effort. Give it your best. You have a good attitude and give your best effort, and all you do, man, you're going to be successful once you find out what your niche is, what your talent's in, and then go from there. But I love those 2 words that Corky Rogers really preached to all his teams there at Bowles High School.
I knew Coach, obviously we lost Coach not that long ago, but I knew him a long time. And he was one of those guys, Coach, I don't think I ever spent more than 10 minutes with Corky in any setting, and I didn't walk away a better person.
Yeah.
Just one of those guys. He was a good dude, man. And I know a lot of the Jacksonville and Bowles people watching and listening, they appreciate what you just said about him. Yep. He was a class guy. Coach, before we get out of here, we'll take a break. But I got a question that Bubba, I want to say hi to Aaron and Michael and Bubba. Gentleman Bubba has asked a question. And let me qualify it. Have you seen Purdue play much? Did you see Purdue play? Braum and Purdue, they played Tennessee in the bowl game, obviously. Did you see them play much? Because the question is kind of directed at you via Shane Matthews. Shane has always lauded Coach Braum and Purdue. He loves their offense and what they do and how they do it. Bubba says, Coach, talking to you, Coach, he says, Coach, Shane Matthews talked about Purdue's explosive attack and Coach Braum as an offensive play caller. Shane said that there are a lot of similarities between what they do, Purdue, and your scheme over the years. And that's kind of Bubba's question or thought through Shane. Purdue, they don't play that old Purdue style. They are fun. They're spread it out, and they throw that ball.
And they had a good year this year.
Real good year.
You know, he had a good year about 3 or 4 years ago and got that huge contract because Louisville was trying to hire him back. And they hadn't done much until this year. But, yeah, he does have some good offensive schemes and this, that, and the other. And, of course, I like to see a head coach, if he's used to coaching, keep coaching when you become head coach.
Yes.
Marcus Freeman, the Notre Dame coach. All of a sudden, he decided, I think, to let somebody else be D coordinator, and he just sort of stood over there. He acted like what am I doing here? But I wish sometimes when you get to be a head coach, you don't have to give up coaching.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you could do it either way. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But there's all kind of ways to be successful. But those guys that have been coaching all year, I wish you'd keep coaching if you're even the interim head coach or what have you.
I tell you, nothing gets by you, Coach Spurrier. Nothing gets by you. That Marcus Freeman comment, though, was so right. Here's Marcus Freeman at Cincinnati, and even this year as the DC before he got named, he's a hands-on guy.
Yeah.
He's a rock and rolling, moving and grooving and talking. Coach?
He just stood over and watched.
Yeah.
And I remember when James Franklin used to yell and scream on the sideline.
I wasn't sure if he was awake during that game.
I don't think he said a word. I don't even think he even said, come on, let's go.
He was this guy, too. He was this guy, Coach.
He was just watching the ball game for some reason. But anyway.
Coach, good stuff. Let me get out. Let's take a break. Let you get about your day. But a week from today, we'll be right back here really busting down next Monday's national championship game. We'll really break it down, get your pick, and who you think is going to take the big trophy, take the confetti bath. So we'll do that next Monday.
I'm going to go out on the limb early and say Georgia sneaks by them somehow. And Alabama hadn't had a bad game in a long time, I guess, since the Auburn game.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but this Georgia's waited, 40 years or so?
41
years.
41 years.
So it could be their day.
41.
Their night.
We'll bust it down a week from today with Coach Spurrier next Monday. But we'll take a quick break, wrap some stuff up. We'll get out of here. It is a Monday edition. I want to thank the Allen Law Firm and, of course, Future Home Loans. We'll be back and wrap up College Sports Today on the other side.
Playing football for 15 years taught me many important things we still use every day fighting for our clients. Things like hard work, toughness, persistence, tenacity. Football taught me when you really want something, you got to be relentless and fight for it every day, not just sometimes. Winning consistently isn't easy. You got to be willing to put in the work and do hard things. I've never taken the easy road, and that's made all the difference in my life. Let me show you what having football tough lawyers can do for you.
The good vibes. What? All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again.
Taste the islands and every drop of Vida de Luis tequila. 100% blue agave from Tequila, Mexico. Good
All the
vibes.
good vibes we've had, we'll have again. All the good vibes we've had, we'll have again.
It's time to thank the sponsors that make college sports today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell possible. Vida de Luis Tequila, the official tequila of college sports today. Make sure you ask for Vida de Luis Tequila by name in your favorite bars and restaurants throughout the state of Florida. And of course, with your next margarita inside Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Safe Harbor Seafood Mayport, Safe Harbor Seafood Crescent Beach, and Sliders Oyster Bar Neptune Beach. The official seafood restaurants of college sports today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell can be found up and down the Northeast Florida coast. Safe Harbor Seafood Mayport, Safe Harbor Seafood Crescent Beach, and Sliders Oyster Bar Neptune Beach. The proud seafood sponsors of college sports today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell. J.B. Coxwell Contracting, established in 1983 and offering complete site development. Go with the company generally considered the most well-respected heavy civil construction firm in Northeast Florida. Go with J.B. Coxwell Construction. For advertising information to get your business on college sports today with Spurrier, Matthews, and Norvell, simply shoot me an email, tnsportsjacks@yahoo.com. Again, shoot me, Terry Norvell, an email, and I'll get back with you. That email address again, tnsportsjacks@yahoo.com. And we are putting the finishing touches on a busy Monday edition of College Sports Today. Bowl season basically has wrapped up. I say basically because actually there are a couple of games left. You may not be aware. I think it's tomorrow. LSU plays their bowl game tomorrow. And, of course, the national championship game is a week from tonight. Georgia and Alabama go at it in the rematch. You may have heard, and want to thank Coach Spurrier for spending some time with us here, as he always does on a Monday here inside Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. I told Coach Spurrier I think he's going to get inundated probably as the week goes on with national media wanting to get him to talk about Georgia and Alabama because it's one of those fairly rare rematches for the national championship. And remember, Coach Spurrier, he won his national championship in '96 here at Florida in a rematch scenario. Florida rematch with Florida State. It's happened before. Hell, Alabama's had it happen before when they played LSU in the regular season, and LSU won that game. Remember in the overtime all-field goal game, and then obviously later that same year, Alabama shut out LSU 21-0. So there have been rematches, and there will be another one, Georgia and Alabama. They've already played several weeks ago, and we talked a little bit when Coach was in. We talked a little bit about how that game played out. I went back and looked at the box score. It was an all-passing game. I think we'll see a totally different game coming up a week from tonight. Neither team had much running attack at all or could muster much running attack. Alabama had, I think, 115 rushing yards, and Georgia was like 109, so both teams barely went over 100 yards. The situation with Alabama, Brian Robinson is their Najee Harris this year. He's their bell cow. He was really banged up. He was a shell of himself. Robinson is healthy. Good news. But remember, the partner in crime for Alabama's passing attack with Williams catching all his passes was John Mechie. Mechie is out. Mechie had a big game against Georgia. He's out, but a healthy Robinson is in. Georgia, conversely, didn't do much on the ground at all as well. Stetson Bennett threw for about 340. Of course, he was trumped because Bryce Young threw for about 450 in that game. I expect a much more balanced attack from both teams. Alabama has been piecing together their offensive line, but I think Alabama will be much more run-pass balanced than they were. The other thing that I'd kind of forgotten, even though the game was only, a month ago, yes, Alabama ended up running away with it against Georgia and kind of blew them out, obviously, final score. Georgia led that game 10-0. Early in the second quarter, it was 10-0. Georgia leading that ball game, and then Alabama went nuts and put a 24 spot on the board. So we'll really dive into it. Friday, we'll have Shane Matthews on and get Shane's perspective Friday. And then a week from today, Coach Spurrier will be right back in here. We'll finally put it all together. And, Coach has already said he thinks Georgia might win, but we'll let him, he can adjust that pick if needed because there could be a lot of stuff happen. There could be a lot of stuff happen in 1 week in terms of, I hope everybody plays and nobody gets injured. There shouldn't be any injuries because there shouldn't be a whole lot of strenuous practices, but opt-outs and things like that shouldn't happen in this game. I mean, you are who you are now. Two teams meeting in Indianapolis on next Monday night for the national championship. Evan, I forgot to throw our stats up there. Obviously, we've gone through our bowl season. We picked out 21 bowl games. We didn't do every bowl game because there's just so many. We picked out 21, but we lost a few. So we got actually 18 bowl games in for our season-long Safe Harbor Seafood picks. So 18 of our 21 that we had scheduled were played. We had like 3 of the games we scheduled and picked. The one team had to opt out or the game got canceled all the way. So here's how it stood through the bowl games and where we stand right now. Shane Matthews in the 18 bowl games, he went 11-7. You see Coach had a 12-6 and I had a 12-6. So overall, right now, Shane Matthews and Terry Norvell, we are tied at 101 correct, 72 incorrect. Coach Spurrier came in 3 behind us. So, Evan, I guess Monday when we have Shane on, he and I will have to pick the championship game. And that's kind of what our theory was, let the championship game be the tiebreaker if needed. So Shane and I guess, will pick the championship game. If we both pick the same team, we'll do a total points, I guess, maybe. Is that the way to do it, Evan? Total points as the double tiebreaker. And so Shane Matthews trying to repeat. Remember, he won that sucker last year, and I've been chasing him and got ahead of him, but we are tied after almost 200 picks, 175 picks or whatever it is. We are tied as I went into bowl season trailing Shane by 1, and I caught him. So that's where we are at. That'll just about wrap it up. Thanks again to the head ball coach as we're in his hangout, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Remember, open for brunch now, 11 to 3, Saturday and Sunday. Brunch consistently now. That's just not seasonal. Brunch is around here on the weekends, and brunch is a lot of fun. If you've been here, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been here, get over here. It's a great restaurant, great food, great place to hang out. And the museum, so many artifacts, so many historical remembrances from Coach Spurrier's career. You'll enjoy just going down memory lane. If you're a Gator fan, if you're a college sports fan, you'll love the place. Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in the Celebration Point area of Gainesville. That'll wrap it up. Thanks to Evan Miller producing as always. And, of course, the head ball coach. We'll get back together on Friday, getting closer when we get back together to the championship game. We'll catch up with Shane Matthews Friday for the next edition of College Sports Today.